Ansel Adams was one of America's great photographers. He had originally thought he was going to be a musician, and then he decided that photography was his calling. And he's best known for his black and white photographs of the American West. This is an example of one of his early photographs from 1921, and there's a starkness and a simplicity about his photographs that just draws you into the silence. I was thinking of Ansel Adams after I read today's gospel. Let me read the gospel for you right now, and then I'll tell you on the other side why I was thinking of him. Jesus said to his apostles, "Behold, I am sending you like sheep in the midst of wolves. So be shrewd as serpents and simple as doves. But be aware of men, for they will hand you over to the courts and scourge you in their synagogues. And you will be led before governors and kings for my sake, as a witness before them and the pagans. When they hand you over, do not worry about how you are to speak or what you are to say. You will be given at that moment what you are to say. For it will not be you who speak, but the Spirit of the Father speaking through you. Brother will hand brother over to death, and father his child. Children will rise up against parents and have them put to death. You will be hated by all because of my name. But whoever endures to the end will be saved. When they persecute you in one town, flee to another. I say to you, you will not finish the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes." Now that passage reflects the memory of Jesus and his message, but it also reflects what was happening in the time that the author of Matthew's Gospel wrote. After the resurrection, the followers of Jesus had been worshiping in the synagogue, but there came a point where they were thrown out of the synagogue, and they were then being persecuted by their family, by their friends, and by their civil authorities. And then they remembered these words of Jesus: "Don't worry about what you will say to defend yourself. The Spirit will come. The Spirit will help you find the words to speak." But see, what they understood was what we need to understand, that Jesus was not only speaking about words, he was speaking about the way in which a disciple was to choose to respond in moments of trial and difficulty. It wasn't about finding clever words to sort of destroy and humiliate your enemy. It wasn't about being a good debater to show someone how wrong they are about what they just said. No, Jesus' way, which encompasses words, has to be about love and compassion and forgiveness and mercy. Now, yes, it is important to speak up, to defend principles, to speak for those who have no voice, to speak for them. But that's when I came across Ansel Adams' words. He once wrote this: "When words become unclear, I shall focus with photographs, and when images become inadequate, I shall be content with silence." We live in very noisy times. There are so many outlets in which we hear people's opinion, their judgment, their point of view. And sometimes we hear a lot of noise. The way that Jesus gives his disciples to be in the world is not simply speaking, but also in the ability to be silent. Because silence allows you to reflect, to listen, and then to respond, not react. We see this in our daily life, don't we? People are having an argument and they're talking over one another. They're not even listening to each other. We see this in daily life when somebody's telling us their opinion and we're not really listening, but we're waiting for them to just be quiet so we can tell them why they're wrong. But silence can be very hard because there's an awkwardness about it, isn't there? We feel we need to fill up the space with words. But my experience is that silence can be more powerful and more compassionate than our words. You know, we've all seen this before. Maybe we've even done it. We've told somebody at the funeral home, she's in a better place. We've told somebody who is going through a difficult time, you know, God never gives you anything more than you can handle. Or we see somebody going through a disappointment and we tell them, oh, there'll be another job, there'll be other fish in the sea, you'll date again, or you'll get another opportunity. Many times those words are not helpful. What is needed first is silence. Jesus says God will be speaking through you when your silence says, I'm here for you. Jesus says God will be speaking through you when your silence says, I have no idea what this is like for you, but I want you to tell me. Jesus says God is going to be speaking through you when your silence says, I don't have any answers, but I'm willing to accompany you so that together we can find understanding. So yes, discipleship is lived by words. It's also lived in our actions, but it is lived powerfully at moments in silence. Because in moments of silence, rather than fill up the space with words and judgment and opinion, we're letting the Spirit enter. And the Spirit fills the space. The Spirit gives us the grace and the strength to then, at some point, find the appropriate words to speak. We live in a very difficult time. There's a world of healing and pain. There's a world of work and repair that needs to be done. But I think for today, the Lord might be asking us to practice some silence. At least that's what I got from the gospel. To practice some silence and to be prepared, if at any moment, to use the words, go ahead, I'm listening. I want to know what you're thinking.